is Aaron. Do we have
Aaron Katursky?
Yeah, Aaron Katursky, ABC news correspondent from New York. Good morning, Aaron.
Well, good morning.
So Michael Cohen back in the news. He is turned on the Trump camp. He's kind of publicly said so, and now it turns out he is speaking with Robert Mueller.
He is. In fact, he spent hours with Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team and with federal prosecutors here in New York, and it turns out with the Attorney General's office here in New York, which has a separate investigation into the Trump Foundation. And he did this not as part of any guilty plea that he reached recently with prosecutors here, but entirely voluntary. And so we knew that Special Counsel Robert Mueller might be interested in Cohen. Now we know that he's definitely spent some time with Cohen, and we can only guess what the two talked about, but certainly we're told the focus of those conversations has been twofold. One, collusion, and whether there was any collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians, which is sort of the crux of the matter. And then a second focus has been on whether the president or any of his associates offered Michael Cohen a pardon.
Talk a little bit about the second aspect of that, Aaron. I heard that as well, and I assume that goes to an obstruction of justice charge.
I would think that that's where it's headed, right? It sounds it, although we don't know specifically, and we're not sure what Cohen may have told the prosecutors, but we're told it's been a focus. And if the president or his associates are promising Michael Cohen certain things in exchange for certain things, that could well be interpreted as an attempt to obstruct justice.
Yeah. How far along are we in the Russia investigation? You guys hear a lot more than we do. It seems to be dragging on, at least if you talk to the Republicans. On the other hand, the events just seem to keep building with the Manafort guilty verdict, and now he is pled guilty and cooperating. Do we see this wrapping up anytime soon?
It's so hard to know. The short answer is no in the short term, because I think prosecutors are usually loath to do anything so close to the election.
Right.
So whatever,
in fact, 60 days is kind of a Justice Department policy that you would not do anything within 60 days of an election.
That's right. So some say it's not necessarily codified, but generally prosecutors want to steer clear. So if you think that things are unlikely to really happen until after the midterms, well, then you start getting into holidays, and then who knows? I mean, it could stretch on, well into the new year.
As it relates to the New York State investigation, those are always interesting because they are outside. State charges are outside the scope of any pardon that the president might be able to issue. So
there has long been a view that the Attorney General's office here in New York, with a rather sweeping powers under the Charities Bureau, which has the power to regulate nonprofits, under what's known as the Martin Act, which is kind of a broad-based securities law, does have an interesting role to play, and was always in some circles thought of as pardon insurance. Even if the president were to pardon a convict on federal charges, the Attorney General's office could kind of swoop in and maybe file some state charges. Now, it's not a guaranteed thing, and I think it's more wishful thinking than a certainty, but certainly the Attorney General's office does have an interest. With Manafort, they had some real estate in New York that they could look at.
Sure.
With Michael Cohen, they had his taxi medallions. With Donald Trump, they have his foundation, which is now under an investigation. So they do have a piece, which even if the charges may not be as severe or as weighty, still could bring a punishment.
And it also includes Donald Trump's sons in the investigation, who have been active participants in the foundations.
That's right, and of course they're looking to see whether there were any cross purposes. Right, if campaign things were being conflated with charitable things, that could be considered a violation of both campaign finance law, but also of run afoul of the Charities Bureau here in New York. So there is a role to play, and Michael Cohen is one of the few people who undoubtedly understood how money was flowing in and out of the Trump Foundation. And already there's been a focus on a certain fundraiser for veterans that Donald Trump boasted about the campaign when he decided to skip a debate and hold a veterans fundraiser.
Right.
And checks were written out of the Trump Foundation, and there were emails that we obtained that showed how the then campaign boss, Corey Lewandowski, was directing certain funds to certain charities based on whether they supported Donald Trump's agenda.
Interesting. Last question for Aaron Katersky, ABC News correspondent. Any ideas at all what Michael Cohen might be telling Mueller regarding collusion and the Russia influence on the 2016 election?
You know, we don't know specifically, but Cohen was certainly at the center of the decision making in the Trump orbit back then, and so did he know anything about the now infamous Trump Tower meeting? And does he think that Donald Trump knew about it in advance? What about the statement that was crafted, and who played a role in it? And certainly Cohen, whether Mueller believes him or not is another story, but certainly Cohen has a view on those kinds of things, and would undoubtedly be interested. The special counsel would be interested in that view.
All right. Aaron Katersky, ABC News correspondent, New York. Thanks so much for keeping us up to date on this.
Thanks, guys.